you're used to your tracks and loops still looking like this, but you want them to look like this, so stick around and watch this video and I'll show you my #1 hack to start finishing more tracks all in under 30 minutes. Let's get inside Ableton. So now we're inside Ableton, the first thing we need to do is just understand why we don't arrange our tracks and they always just look like this 16-bar loop here. Well, in my opinion, after coaching nearly 300 producers on a one-to-one basis, I think there's two common factors. #1 is skills. You just don't have the skills to get you from a 16-bar loop to a 6-minute track. It's a difficult process and there's a lot of options that you can take. And without the right structure and guidance, it can be very difficult. And #2, which is where I typically fall, is it just feels very overwhelming. Although I have the skills and knowledge on how to get an arranged track, I still look at a 16-bar loop and go, I've got to get this from effectively 20 to 30 seconds out to 5 minutes 30, 6 minutes plus. So what I'm about to show you throughout this video is the #1 thing that has got rid of that overwhelming feeling. And all it is planning out your arrangement first. Okay, now it sounds very obvious. A lot of producers, you'll take your 16-bar loop and then you'll arrange the first section and you'll continue and continue, continue and continue. And the problem with this is you have no roadmap. You have no structure of where things are going to go and the direction of a track. So you never know what's next. So you're kind of arranging into oblivion and you just don't know what's going on. So the better way to do this is start mapping it out before you start working through the finer detail stuff. So now you're asking, well, how do I approach that? Well, the first thing you want to do is map out the obvious parts of a track first. What do I mean by that? So you're going to go through top to bottom and look at each channel, and you're going to pick out the obvious ones which are going to play primarily from beginning to end. So our kick, for example, is primarily going to play from beginning to end. So I'm going to duplicate this all the way across in an 8-bar interval to 5 minutes 30. That's what I'm going to go for length for this track. Anywhere from 5 minutes 30 to 6 minutes 30, I think is the sweet spot for house music nowadays. And then I'm going to insert my locator by right-clicking up here and going add locator. So we have our kick in. We can just keep on going down. We have our main mid bass. So I'm not too sure when this element is going to come in. I do know it's definitely going to be in by 33. Which will be around about 1 minute's worth of an intro. So I can then duplicate this all the way across to the end, and then I'm going to back it up 32 bars to mirror the intro. So now what I can do is I can mark my intro and my outro. And I know some of you are saying, well, how do you know that you want a 1 minute intro? Well, I don't. But I do know one thing, and that's that I don't want anything longer than a minute intro. So starting with this point just then helped me map out the arrangement. And if I need to delete some time later on, no problem. It's really easy to do inside Ableton. So that's our mid bass in. Then we have the actual sub bass itself. So I'm going to leave this playing throughout the whole entire track because fundamentally it won't be heard once there's a filter on there, or it's going to be very muted when we cut the low ends in the intros and the outros. We can also see we've got this big effect up here. Now, I'm not too sure where I'm going to put this for the moment. I'm looking at my track and going, okay, it's not going to be in the intro and it's definitely not going to be in the outro. I haven't really mapped out any other sections yet. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it to around this mark here, which is somewhere in the middle of the track. And then we'll come back to this later on. Down from there, we have the riser section. So this is our main synth. And we have two parts to it. We have the call and response hook, and then we have this part as well. Now, do I know where this first part is going to come in? At the moment, no, I don't. Do I know where this second part is going to come in? Not particularly, but I do know it's going to be in the latter half of a track and primarily come in the breakdowns. So for the moment, I'm just going to put it on that 3 minute mark. And this one over here, I'm going to put on the bar 49. Why am I putting it there? Well, it kind of logically makes sense. If I know my intro is going to end there, then that is a 16-bar section before I definitely need some new element to come in. And I'm going to go down again, and we have this drone riser sound here, which is really nice. Now, do I know where this is going to come in and out? No. So what I like to do for these type of sounds is copy it throughout the entire track. Now, will it play the entire track? No, it definitely won't, and I will move it around. By having it copy throughout the entire track, it makes my life so much easier to decide if it needs to be there or not. It removes the second guessing. Let's say we are on this section of the arrangement over here, and I would be thinking, oh, do I need that riser? Well, then I need to copy, paste, duplicate, listen to it, and then decide if I need it. If it's just there, it's going to flow automatically, and if I decide I don't want it, one button and it's deleted. So it just really speeds up your workflow. Next up, we have all of the bass hits we put in. So for these ones, I'm just going to move this to somewhere over here, because it's very similar to some of the other elements. We're not really going to figure out where these things are going to go yet. So now we can move on down to some more of the obvious elements. So let's go to all of the texture stuff. Now, all of this, I'm just going to copy straight across from beginning to end. Why am I doing it? Well, because it plays almost as one loop. And that's how I like to treat these groups is they're not necessarily a bunch of different layers. It's just more one sound, which I've created within the production stage. So now we can move on to the glitches. And what I'm going to do for these is find the ones that I don't want playing from the beginning of the intro. I like to have my intros nice and full. And then that forces me to get variation from the track from more noticeable elements, such as synths and vocals and different kind of effects, instead of thinking that channel 55 perk loop, everyone's going to notice when I bring that in on bar 17. Realistically, no one is. So that's why I like to have it all in from the get-go. So this little modular hit here is very noticeable. So I'm going to maybe bring this in much later on. And something like this, where it cuts through the mix quite a lot, I like to just duplicate it every other throughout my arrangement. Now, reason for this is when we're building the loop, we're kind of just fixated on the loop, just playing and playing and playing. We don't think about necessarily the bigger picture. So a very simple element like that, which can be spanned out every other 16 or every other 8 bars, can just help the track feel like there's more going on than there actually is. And then any of these more noticeable elements, like these two down here, I'm going to delay these ones and just check what this intro sounds like now. So there's a few here that I'm probably going to push back. I'll leave that one in because that one's a cool little sound. So we'll copy that from beginning to end. And the same with all of these bits up here. And then with these other elements down here, I'm going to look at what we've done with this top modular layer. And I'm going to put that in the opposite place. So when this one's playing, that one's not playing. And then when that one's playing, the other one isn't playing. So again, it's just spacing things out, allowing a bit more space in the mix, getting a bit of variation in there without us even having to add anything. And then these two, I'm not really too sure where I'm going to bring these in and out. So I'm just going to bring them in from our main section there. So now we can move on to the drums. So I'm going to turn on all the drums and take a listen to see what it sounds like in the intro. I definitely don't want this rolling from the start. I want to introduce this more sort of gradually over time. So I think I'm going to bring my claps in on bar 8. I'm not overthinking this. I'm just, going off the top of my head. I think a lot of the times people put too much pressure on where to put certain sounds in the mix and when they need to come in and out. Ultimately, like the overall structure of how the energy progresses is very important, but the actual individual sounds of when this clap comes in, or should I bring the hi-hat in here, I don't think matters. Just want to feel it out more from an energy point of view rather than thinking of it as layers. And these mod claps, I'm going to copy throughout the whole entire track. As we mentioned previously, it's much easier to delete than to add later on. So I'm going to do the same with this clave hit. I'll just copy this every 8 bars, and then we can delete it when we don't want it. We've got these random hi-hats as well. So I'm going to delay these till much later on. And I'm going to take that vice versa technique. Now, as I keep on mentioning, this isn't set in stone what we're doing here. Think of it as almost like a roadmap. And then in the next session, we're actually going to drive down the road. When we drive down the road, we may actually take some different turns and move things around. But at least we have kind of a structure and a plan. We've got some open hi-hats, which we have turned off for the moment. So let's just put those there and we'll come back to those in a second. And now what I'm going to start doing is spreading some of these layers of the closed hi-hats out and just help pick up that energy throughout the intro. So that's a more dominant one. So that one needs to come in probably around the 17. That one can stay. Maybe push this one back 8. And then this little groovier one, we can push back as well. Copy all of these all the way across. So now when I zoom out, we can actually see kind of almost got a whole track visually arranged. Now going back to what I was saying about the overwhelming feeling of arrangement, this is the whole reason why I do this. By visually seeing now that I've pretty much got a whole track arranged, I'm bought into this project. I'm like, right, okay, I've done the hard work. I've got a cool idea. I actually just now need to go through it. So now we've mapped out the basic elements. We just have a few things left to put in place. To get them in place and get them in the right place, now we just need to think about the energy of the track and the progression with regards to the style that we're going for. For example, with this track, we know we have quite a hard-hitting minimal tech house track. So the energy of the track is going to be coming in quite quick, but it's also going to come away quite quick. So then we can create nice contrast between them, creating dynamics and impacts on breakdowns, build-ups, and drops. If we compare that to maybe like a Musicon style percussive roller, they're much more kind of progressive. They build up in energy and then they slowly strip it away. And then that's how the impact comes in on the drop. And the sections of those type of tracks are much longer with those kind of percussive elements building up. Our sections sort of are much shorter and snappier and drop in and out of dynamics a lot more. So this really then helps us think about the arrangement as a whole. And that's going to help us decide where to put some of these other elements. We could do multiple things in here. You could build up, drop on the 17, and then sort of maybe have another fill here. We could slowly build, then have a break here. We could keep everything sort of paused and then have this as a strip away break and drop there. You know, the world's kind of your oyster when it comes to referencing a track. And like I said, don't overthink it too much. Just think about how the energy is going to progress and the style of track. So I know I want to make this nice, short and snappy. So I'm thinking drop the low end in here, then have a short break or fill around the 25. So I'm going to mark that in and I'm going to call it break. And to symbolize that as well, I'm going to delete the kick just to have a nice visual reference. Then I can move along and go, okay, well, I know I'm not going to want anything longer than a 32 bar section of my track playing without some kind of breakdown or fill happening. So I'm looking at this going, okay, well, we've got this element here that needs bringing in at some point. So I reckon let's go break and drop on the 49 to 57. So that will be a 16 bar section there of it playing, then an 8 bar break. We can introduce that synth element nicely, and it kind of make logical sense within the arrangement. Then I can look at the rest of the arrangement and go, okay, well, 32 bars would take me up to the 89. And then we would have a big kind of breakdown. Well, why not do maybe a shorter breakdown to keep things nice and techy and have a 24 bar section here and go into a 16 bar breakdown over here. And once again, I'm going to delete the kick. So then that takes us up pretty much to the middle of a track and we have 48 bars until our outro. Well, now we need to think probably, so now we're going to look at it and go, okay, well, we don't want that just to be our main breakdown. We probably want something a bit more with regards to the context of a track. It's very techy, hard-hitting, big vocal, very large synths, so on and so forth. So I know I'm going to want at least a 24 bar to 32 bar breakdown. So now I can figure out, okay, where is that going to best go? Well, I've got a 24 bar section there and a 16 bar break. So maybe I let this section play out for a little bit longer and we take it to 121, which would be a 24 bar section. So then I know to input and add a break marker. And that leaves us then with a 24 bar section going into our outro. Well, I know some of you are thinking, well, you're going to run out of time in the track. Yeah, I probably am. So what I can do now is I can shorten this and go duplicate time. So what this has done is it's grabbed everything in that section of arrangement and just duplicated it across. So now I can then go, okay, I want a 24 bar break for my main break. I'm going to put a drop section there. And then I have a 16 bar section after that main drop. Well, I don't think that's going to be long enough. I think we're going to need at least another 8 to 16 bars. So then I could either go ahead and add another 8 bars, or I could just move the outro section. And I'm also going to add in a little break marker to help transition the outro there, and delete that kick. So now we have a full-on arrangement structure for our track, and this will help those other elements that I was talking about. So for example, we can then keep this synth playing, and when it goes into this breakdown, halfway through this break, we can reintroduce the more arpeggiated version of it. Then it can go back into this section, then maybe we can take it away, and it can be more intense in this section, something like that, and then it can come back for that section up until there. Perfect, that's figured that part out. We've also got the bigger bass effect. So why not put that in the breakdowns to begin with? And if we can find specific areas for it to work in the groove, then great. So it kind of makes sense to put in those sections before we start introducing those really heavy arpeggiated synths. What other elements did we have that we couldn't figure out? Some of the open hi-hats. Well, I know I probably want the open hi-hats to help pick up a bit of energy later on. So maybe I could put my open hi-hat 8 bars after that drop. Maybe I could put this one directly after that drop and take them out in the breakdowns. And maybe for this one, I could get it playing in the drop, and then this one could come in slightly later on. So now the last thing we just got to figure out is the vocals themselves. So we mapped out a few different sections in the previous episode. So what we can just do is start picking these up and moving them into their logical position. So for example, they're going to go in the breakdowns. We've got the vocal layer, which maybe we'll introduce in the bigger breakdowns. We've got these kind of ad-lib sections. Maybe that'd be cool in like the intro parts that we can play around with. That little ad-lib there, I'm just going to copy throughout now. We have these verses, so that might work better after some of the drops going into different breakdowns. So I know I'm probably maybe want these in a little bit earlier on, and I'm going to copy them across every other. And now we go from the 16 bar section to a full loop that looks arranged. Now, granted, I know it's not arranged, but by just looking at this now, I've gone, oh, it's like a sigh of relief. I can go, okay, this isn't actually that bad. Intros, outros, really easy to do. Main section where the grooves are playing, fairly easy to do. The only things that require, quite a bit of work and thought process are these breakdowns. And really, none of them are that long of a breakdown. The biggest one is a 24 bar. That should be fairly straightforward. We've got so many elements to play around with as well. So it really relieves that kind of stress, and a sigh of relief comes out when I do this for my arrangements. So there you go. That's how I get out the loop stage and start arranging like a pro. This has honestly worked with so many of my one-to-one clients. It's helped me so many times over the years. If you found this video useful, just make sure to subscribe, as this is part of an ongoing series where I build this exact track you've seen in this video from beginning to end. So I'll catch you in another video very soon.